Now, there are a lot of trading platforms out there, and this one here, Crashr, is quite an interesting one to keep an eye on. I like this one because there are a couple of points of difference here from the platform. They also have a token within the ecosystem, so this one is definitely something to look into. I'm joined by Zeus on this episode to go through all the details around Crashr, how they're different, and what they have to offer for the Cardano ecosystem. So Zeus, welcome to the podcast.
Pleasure to be on. Thank you for having me.
So first off, I'd like to get a little bit of an understanding of how you got into the space and how you started building on the Cardano ecosystem.
Yeah, definitely. So my introduction to the space in general was with RWAs, so real world assets. I had a clothing company back then, and I always had streetwear-esque ideologies behind it. And I always was interested in blockchain. I was always looking at Bitcoin, Ethereum, a lot of these other chains. Then I got introduced to Cardano, looked into Cardano a bit as an investor, mainly for the ADA, while I was running my streetwear brand. And I decided, why not? Boy, I loved NFTs. I love video games my whole life too. So I said, why not look into NFTs and see how I can work with NFTs? So my goal was to make the clothing company into NFTs, where each one had their own physical asset, and you turn that into NFTs. Long story short, it was a little too expensive. It was a little back then, and I had to find ways to make it work. Then too, it wasn't as easy as it is these days, where you can sew on an NFT chip and there you go. It was a little more complicated. So from that, went back around, delved myself deeper in the ecosystem, looked at a lot of blockchain gaming protocols, and always stuck with Cardano. And in general, is the most sustainable. So I decided to look into it, find what flaws I could find, what can I fix, and that's how we were born.
Cool. Nice that you guys are over here on the Cardano ecosystem. You said something interesting there. Sustainable. What do you mean by you found Cardano sustainable compared to the other chains that you were playing around with?
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest ones, which is the big piece, was the cost of building something on the chain. Obviously, with gas fees and much, if I were to choose EVM, that would cost me way too much to even go. So that's when I got introduced to Cardano and noticed the lower price, lower entry point, which meant for me lower barriers of entry. And I did more research in IOH and Cardano itself, the whole foundation, and the whole academic based research on everything they do was a big green light for me. Specifically knowing if you have academic research behind it and you have really good professors and a lot of R&D behind it, that's going to be sustainable for the future, especially with the fee structures it has and the gas fees it has. So, it was all in all green lights for me to start building on here.
Cool. All right. That makes perfect sense. I totally agree with all that as well. So now you've gone from fashion label, clothing, apparel, over to the DApp side of things. So what exactly is Crashr, and what have you been building in the background here?
Yeah, so Crashr, in a nutshell, is a decentralized asset trading platform facilitating diverse transactions and multi-asset trading. Shifting away from the traditional ADA to NFT or NFT to ADA approach. We're adding a little more twist to it, where users can be able to use different tokens, ADA plus their NFTs, in order to facilitate a transaction, essentially adding liquidity to NFTs, which is something that has been an issue for NFTs in general. So our unified smart contracts that we build on is foundation of JPEG Store's V3 smart contracts, but we added some differentiators such as the unification, diverse assets, and some different fee implementations.
Okay. Got some technical terms there that I'd like to dig into. So the one that you just mentioned there, okay, let's go back a little bit further. You said bringing in additional liquidity to the NFT markets. So here we're trading ADA and other NFTs or other fungible tokens. Can you explain that part?
Yeah, definitely. So in order to make a trade, let's say normally you would make an offer of someone with specific NFTs you have for ADA. What we're doing different now is you're able to have multiple NFTs in your offer, add whichever fungible tokens you like, and on top of that, throw some ADA on there and offer for another asset. And it could be the same mix of it. It can be someone else's NFTs with a handful of their tokens, with a handful of ADA, and having that facilitation, bringing liquidity overall to the entire trade itself.
Gotcha. Okay. So that's really interesting. So obviously, if we're using other tokens, then we can use like USDM, USDC, as well, like some stablecoin assets for the trades, which is quite interesting. So that makes it a lot more flexible there. But you also said other NFTs. So I just trade an NFT for another NFT along with some fungible tokens. Yeah.
Exactly. Yep. You can pair
Cool.
NFTs with whatever tokens you like. You can pair NFTs and ADA. You could do really the whole diverse part is kind of giving control to the users. Is whichever. Let's say you want this NFT. You don't have other NFTs to offer them. You don't have enough ADA, but you have a boatload of tokens. You mix around, play around with it, and diversify your portfolio. And that's the goal with it.
That's majorly cool. But how do you guys like get the value for all this? Are you pulling data from on chain? Are you getting it from like a tap tools or something like that? So you know the value of everything, so you can have like a fair trade on your platform.
Yeah, definitely. So a lot of our data shifted away from the third parties that we used to have. Now we have all the data in house via a node. So any and all data on chain will be directly sent to us, and we have it all set there. And that with the value, we have a unique fee structure. So with that unique fee structure, it pretty much includes the number of unique assets, the total amount of ADA fees that we have, the number of payouts, and a few other key components. This is all listed in our protocol specification as well. But this formula pretty much adapts per chain or per transaction. So based on the amount of NFTs you have and the amount of tokens you have, it extracts all the data, plugs it in the formula, and then gives you that fee per NFT rate token.
All right. Okay. This is going to make trading quite interesting to see what the formula comes up with in terms of value for the trades. I can't wait to see that in action and get my hands on it so I can actually have a little bit of a play with it and see what trading is like. Now, the other thing that you mentioned in your earlier statement was the unification of something or rather. I did not understand that from the V3 smart contracts from JPEG Store. Can you explain a little bit more about that for the audience and myself?
Definitely. Definitely, yeah. So right now, the smart contract structure is usually separate contracts for listings and offers. Same with having multiple assets in one or having multiple trades within one. We simplified that approach and keep it all unified under a single smart contract. So per smart contract that executes, we're able to have as many of that data as far as listings go and offers go, all seamless in one unified contract. Essentially, the goal with that is to just speed up the platform as much as possible. We wanted to also simplify the back end as much as possible. We had a really great team leading the development. Clark Alesna is one of our lead developers for this. He's with Cybe Group, and they've been killing it, doing really good as far as simplifying what's out there now and bringing our old ideas and focuses and kind of shaping it into a simple smart contract.
That's cool. Yeah, Clark's quite of a gun developer out there in space, so it's nice to know that he's been working alongside you guys to get the platform up and running. Who else is
Yeah.
on your team? How big is the team?
So we have myself, Ash, which is my co-founder. We have two designers in-house who have been pushing out the amazing marketing that you've been seeing. And we have a team of three developers, Clark Lesna being the lead, and under Cybe Group, which is his team, is two other developers, Fonz and RJ, front-end and back-end developers. So those three have great, amazing synergy. We meet once, twice a week. We talk about everything going on, and they voice their opinions very well. They've been in the space for a very long time too, so they really look in the details and the nitty gritties, and they don't allow anything to just go, which is what I'm very grateful to have this team. Is everyone's looking really focused on everything going out there and quadruple checking with all of us. So they're a great team.
Yes, most definitely. I remember when Clark, I can't remember when, but he launched like the first swaps, Hosky swap. I think it was back in like 2022 or something like that. It was clunky, but it was the first like swapping decks on Cardano that I saw in action. So it was really cool to see. So yeah, definitely in good hands there. How on earth did you guys fund yourselves? Because it's a fairly large team there, and
Yeah.
where's the cash come from?
So main one was from the Bombers Mint that we had. We raised a good amount from the first mint, and that was when
Nice.
in the very very beginning, like if we backtracked from the first day, we self funded to make sure we get the MVP out, so the main product. That's when we did the NFT launch, and that raised us enough runway to get through the development for the last stage. And then we did a pre-seed round with friends and family to raise enough runway to be able to go through the rebranding and make sure we're sustainable. And then obviously now with the ISPO and the token, hopefully that's going to be a big driver. But we're also looking to raise with VCs. I've been talking to a few VCs that honestly haven't known Cardano much, and they've only heard different stuff about it. So I'm trying to change some minds, get some more investors in Cardano, and kind of help the whole community. So far it's going well. So I'm hoping to secure some good investments and grow as much as possible.
That's a hard job, trying to convince these investors and change their perspectives on Cardano. I've tried it myself. It's like the things that you hear from people just because of its tarnished reputation from 2018 or whatever it was. It's hard to change people's minds. But
I
good
agree.
luck.
But I mean, thankfully, so far that because I've been hit with thousands of no's, obviously, and some people that don't want to change, but a handful of them have been really considering looking into it, and they have been, and we've been having follow-up talks here and there. So I think the biggest one, at least the biggest differentiator they noticed that was different is people are still building on Cardano, and that kind of gives them that light bulb of like, how come? And that's when they started looking into it more. And I told them on the surface level, you see what was the past, but you got to look deeper into that and see like what new projects are being built, who's building now. And that was a big one that kind of like stuck with a good handful of them. So that's kind of the approach I'm doing is like just try to get them, show the tech as much as possible. New. I mean, I'm not sure if you saw like I guess the new V3 Plutus smart contracts are going to be Bitcoin compatible. I want to say.
Yeah.
I didn't fully read that, but that's a big, a lot of the people didn't know that at all. So I'm saying, this is the goal of it, to be sustainable down the line.
Yeah, that new algorithm they squashed in there, and the EVM one as well. So it's Bitcoin and EVM MetaMask assignable. So yeah, huge. Don't know when that's going to come out. I heard soon, but that's going to make huge impact on the Cardano space for sure.
Oh, for sure. I'm here for it.
Now, you guys also have a token that's in play. What's the utility behind this one? And at the moment, you also have an ISPO. So that's a really good way of getting your hands on the token. And I think you've recently extended it as well. So people listening in can still stake to your stake pool and get access to it. Can we talk about the utility and how else they can get their hands on the tokens?
Yeah, 100%. So ISPO right now is still open. As you just mentioned, it's a pretty prime time to get into it right now, especially before everything gets fully pushed out. We've been working with Go Maestro for the ISPO, and they've been helping us greatly for the back end, make sure everything's sustainable. For the utility of the token, so we launched our tokenomics with the brief summary is that 35% goes to the protocol rewards. We have 32% to the public sale. And 10% for marketing, 10% for investments, and 10% for developments, and 3% for the ISPO. So the key utilities behind it is there's one very key one that I truly really like, so I'll get into that at the end. But we have early access, of course. Anyone facilitating the ISPOs, once we have the beta test nets come out, the holders are able to utilize it. And in the future, once we have some cool functions out there, you're able to utilize those, be first hands-on. I want to be as community-led as possible and see what the community thinks of everything. And if there's any concerns or anything that community members want to see, I'm always here to make sure we can adjust those. We have a staking utility coming up as well. So that's with the revenue share model. And we have a 60-20-20 split between the revenue share. So the revenue split will mean 60% to the treasury, 20% for token buyback, and 20% to staking. So this is just to bring some more sustainability behind it, and obviously with the platform itself. Another one's rewards. So you will be rewarded every trade you do, every functionality you do on the platform. You can get some rewards back for you as well. And instead of going through the XP and different variations of it, you'll be directly rewarded Crashr. And second to last is the full trading potential. So we have analytics coming out as well, much more advanced analytics. As far as unlocking new ways to see your NFTs, see what trades you're doing, get some more detailed approaches. As I mentioned, a lot of the data is in-house, so you'll be getting a lot of the data firsthand and as quick as possible. And the last one is developer access. So this one's where we're going to have SDKs, data, APIs, and a few other cool analytical needs for developers. So if users want to utilize our platform or projects want to utilize the platform on their hood, we're going to have SDKs out for them to be able to use. And we're going to be obviously open source soon too. So that'll kind of give them more of an idea and how we can expand the chain together by providing those.
All right, very cool. I love that level of utility. There's quite a bit there. And the fact that you bring up the SDK and making parts of your platform, I'm assuming parts of it are open source as well, I think is really good for the ecosystem overall. So hats off to you there. I'd love to see what type of data I can get out of this analytics platform. It's always quite interesting to see the trading data coming out of the trading platforms. I've seen so many really cool other ecosystems come out of those analytics that people can grab from what's trading. So really interesting to see what will come out of Crashr of that too. So really nice. Now, what is on your roadmap? Like everything that you've talked about so far is quite cool and exciting, but like what will we see by the end of the year or even next year?
Yeah, definitely. So the biggest parts, as I mentioned, the APIs and SDKs coming out on Cardano and having the mainnet fully launched. One of the ones I'm very excited for is going to be interoperability. So being multi-chain. So giving Cardano new eyes, having some new multi-chain EVM chains on board to have them take a look at Cardano even further. We're working on those. So we're working with a few business developers from various chains to see where we can find some synergies with. And once we finalize what chain we're going to go with, we're going to start building on another chain to bring more eyes and exposures to Cardano. So that's what I'm super excited for. I think in general for the whole community and everyone else, having some more eyes be exposed to Cardano is very key for the whole ecosystem. So that's something I'm leading and hoping to push by this year.
And this kind of leads me on to another question I had here as well. Competition in the space. There's a lot of marketplaces out there, even on other chains and ecosystems as well. How are you going to compete against all of these other platforms? How are you going to attract users to your platform, etc.?
Definitely, yeah, great question. And competition in general is just great for the whole economies, right? Like having more competition, more options for users to use. I think that's very key for growth. And the biggest part I think that we're going to do best on is simplification and try to just eliminate any barriers of entry that there might be in different platforms, different marketplaces, where an average user who just got into Web3 wants to utilize the platform. They don't need to go through many hurdles. One of the biggest differentiators that the team is doing is seeing what we can do to simplify it for a normal Web2 user to get onto Web3 and not be filled with so many different, avenues to go and what they want to do. Because I think at the end of the day, having more Web2 users onto Web3, that expands the whole Web3 ecosystem as a whole. And I think it would be amazing to have some new eyes on Cardano they were from Web2 and they had no idea. And that's, ever since we've been pushing this whole marketing out, sending it out, there's been a lot of new eyes on Cardano that they didn't know much about, but now they do. And that's the whole essence and goal, is just simplify the process, see how we can work with competitors, see how we can expand on the communities, work with them, make everything easier for everyone, and shoot from there.
All right, brilliant. I'll make sure all the links, everything, references are in the show notes down below. And Zeus, thank you so much for joining me on this episode.
Appreciate you for having me. Thank you so much.